start recording. I'm going to say this again, right? Although in a persuasive paper, we can have open websites, we can't do that in research because research is considered scientific or academic research writing. So we have to have credible resources. And the term that I want you to remember, let's see if I can get another text box to open, is peer-reviewed. So when a journal article or a news article or any other kind of article is written, if it's written with academic intent, it goes before a panel of other researchers in that field, and they read it and they verify that the theory is accurate and that the research process is rigorous and that the conclusion that's reached is viable. So they say, yes, this is a well-written research paper. And I don't guess they really get a stamp on it, but it gets put into a different place in the interwebs, right? It gets stored with a DOI. And everybody remembers what DOI is. Object identifier. Did I spell everything correctly? Digital object identifier, a DOI. That is a number that gets assigned to peer-reviewed academic writing, and the intent is to make it easy to find. If we can get the DOI, we can put that into the search engine, and boom, we'll go straight to that particular article. Might have to, sometimes you have to join a particular group or you have to pay for access. That's the way they keep all this stuff working. But the good part is while you're in college, you get it all free. So, oh, come on, dogs. Y'all go play. So let me see. Anybody got a question while I'm thinking about how I want to proceed here? It's the interesting part about these things. I come in with the idea just to answer questions and help, and those questions always lead us down a winding path. But let's talk about how to find peer-reviewed papers. And the best way to do that, let's see. And let's go over here and share the application. I want to share that one. All right, have any of you guys started playing with Galileo yet? Probably not, because you probably don't know what a big monster it is yet. That's Georgia Library Learning Online. Oh, it spells it out right there, doesn't it? Georgia Library Learning Online, Galileo. So this is Georgia's portal to all of the finest and highest regarded academic writing that's available to us. And there are others. I'm still a student at I'm a student at Old Dominion, and we have a different one. This one is called Open Athens, and so I'm going to sign in as a staff member. You'll sign in as a student, apparently. And it's got to go log in. Give it a minute. All right, what are you guys seeing? Darn, let's stop sharing and share Galileo's homepage to make sure everybody can see. Okay, so here we are at the Galileo homepage, right? So we can search Galileo, we can use the bento search, we can look through all this stuff down here. There's actually films on demand. You can go over there and get all kinds of videos and stuff like that to show on your laptop. It's pretty cool. There's other information down here that may or may not be helpful to you, but I think we can kind of bypass most of that. And we can go to classic search. And then we can go into our, let's type let's see if this is going to update for you guys. And it did. All right, so this is just one of the topics that I offer to you for your persuasive paper. But if we look right here, can y'all see that number right there? 290,238 different resources or articles or something written about stopping smoking in America. And by the way, it's a good idea to limit your search. We could have even said in North Georgia. In fact, let's go up there and do that. We can change this, I think. I'll have to go over here and do it. Let's see. Where's, oh, here it is. There it is. Let's just go up here and see in North Georgia. Did I spell? All right, so we have now, who sees the first fallacy? We dropped it down to 66,000 returns, but what do you see right off the bat about this one? What's wrong with that? Nobody? Where do we find Kurdish patience?
It's not sticking on you. Shh.
Huh? Is it not showing me?
I was about to say I can't hardly see that, but he spoke up.
Okay, all right. Well, it says Kurdish patience, and where do we find Kurdish patience? Where do we find Kurds? Which is a people, right? It's an ethnicity, and they're found in the Soviet Georgia, the Soviet state of Georgia. So here we've jumped straight. I was looking for something a little closer to home, and it's jumped straight over to the Kurdish region of the Soviet state of Georgia. So that doesn't really fit what we're looking for. So we want to watch out for that. And here's one from northeastern Malaysia. I don't know where that is. So here's something, don't know where it is, but let's do this. Here's the idea, right? We want to keep our research geographically pointed on where we're dealing, right? If you said America, I wouldn't argue with that. That's pretty good, but you can be more specific. But here's the thing: we still can't read 65,556 different articles. We can't read that many articles. But we don't have to. We're going to get it. We're going to reduce that. So right over here, you see where it says limit to? We're going to limit it to full text. All right, we lost 5,000. Now let's limit it to scholarly or peer-reviewed journals. Now this is going to wipe out newspaper articles, magazine articles. This is going to bring us only to articles that are published in a peer-reviewed journal. So that's going to should make a difference. Yeah, we went from 60,000 to 9,000. And then look at this date. We don't need to know what was published way back in 1925. We can just go to the last couple of years, 2020, and then update. Now we're down to 670. So now we've got a list here of 670 of the best or the most highly regarded articles about smoking cessation. And so now we just look through and find the ones that we think are going to support our position. And I have done both ways. I have said, well, I've got plenty of time. Let me read some of these, and I've gone through and read them and tried to figure out which ones fit. And then I've had times where I was in a hurry and I said, I got to use the top 5, whatever they are, whatever they say, they got to go in my paper. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. So this one, you can see the top 2 here. I'm thinking, well, it doesn't say exactly where this is done, but we can go in here and read it. And let's see, we have all of our information over here. And I was hoping to see somewhere that they would say, anybody see it where they say which area, which geographical area of the globe that they're researching in? So it didn't matter to these guys. By the way, you can also come down here and listen.
General practitioners' knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, and practices surrounding the prescription of e-cigarettes for smoking cessation, a mixed methods systematic review. Advisory. Contents. 1. Introduction. 2. Methods. 3. Data sources and search strategy.
So now he's going down
4.
the table of
Eligibility
contents
screening.
over here. And eventually
5.
he'll
Quality
continue to
appraisal
read.
and risk of bias assessment. 6. Data extraction.
Ma'am?
It says right under the introduction that there are 1.1 billion adult smokers around the world, and over half, 60% of them want to quit. So I guess they're looking at the whole world?
Worldwide, yeah, worldwide. Okay. So even if you were trying to look at North Georgia, you could still work that information into a paper. You could say according to, let's see who these researchers are. According to Silamoglu et al., there are 1.6 million smokers, or 1.1 billion smokers around the world, and 60% of them want to quit. So that's a good way to support the idea that quitting is important with this particular paper. And I was going to, let's see, there are, in these papers, there are a big part of it, right? This right here, preferred reporting items for systematic review and meta-analysis guidelines, and the study protocol was registered on Prospero. And that doesn't mean anything to us, right? That's written by a doctor, somebody who's doing advanced studies. So that doesn't mean all this stuff right here doesn't really mean much to us, other than to say that if they belong to one of those organizations, they're probably really important and very smart. Here's where they go out and actually talk about a Google search. A lot of this stuff doesn't help, right? This part, if you read into this, a total of 8,123 studies were imported into covidence for screening, right? That doesn't mean much to us. What means to us, the introduction, 1.1 billion adult smokers, 60% of them want to quit. There's been a surge in electronic cigarettes. These devices do all of this stuff. And e-cigarettes have substantially increased from 35 million users to 68 million. This part is important to us. That gives us the information that may help us in our paper. And then we can scroll down to the bottom. All this stuff right here, that's way over our heads. That's where they have conferences and stuff, and they get together and talk about all of that business. But way down here somewhere, we should find the conclusions. Sometimes it's called findings, sometimes it's called conclusions, but down here we should find if they proved or disproved what they set out to talk about. Mixed views on e-cigarettes as a smoking cessation aid. Not everybody thinks they're a good idea. Some GPs, general practitioners, I'll bet you, general practicing doctors, they were optimistic and thought e-cigarettes were good. Others didn't. Blase, blase. Challenges in supporting patients to quit smoking. So that's the only two parts that you really need to spend time reading is your introduction and that conclusion paragraph. The rest of that will be something for the doctors to talk about. Sometimes, I wish they had this labeled. Let's see. This is this area right here. Is y'all still seeing what I'm seeing? That area right there is what should be labeled as the abstract. And that is half a page or so of introduction material, just to tell you a little bit of what they wanted to study, how they went about studying it, and if you look right here, we have the results, right? So sometimes you can get away with just reading the abstract. There's a lot of information in there. They call it the introduction. No, this is before the introduction, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I feel like I've done a little bit of dump trucking on you. You guys know what a dump truck is? Anthony, glad to have you with us. Autumn, what does it mean when somebody dump trucks?
Puts a lot of information on you.
Yeah, so that's a lot of information that doesn't really apply for a few weeks, but I wanted to explain the difference between just a basic website and a peer-reviewed paper, and I wanted you to understand that some writing, as in this persuasive paper, welcomes and is a good place for common websites and the information that you can find there, whereas the research paper, the academic research paper, will not tolerate those websites and will look for a higher standard in the credibility of the sources that you use. So, have I said too much? Jill, did I confuse you? Are you wondering why I said all that?
Oh, no, I follow you.
Okay, good, good. Kiri, how do you feel about all of that?
Oh no, it was helpful for like the upcoming weeks about the research paper. So that's good to know. So now I know like where to go, where to look at stuff when we get there. I will say though, because I have missed the other like sessions, I do have some questions about what we're supposed to be doing now.
Okay,
Um, but I feel like you've probably already answered the questions I have.
that'll make them easy to answer again. And by the way, I'm recording this, and I hope I played back. I was watching the recordings. I finally figured out to post them on YouTube because they're lengthy. And I sent out the link to my YouTube channel. I don't know if anybody has gone back to look at that and make sure that it all works the way it's supposed to. But when I was reviewing them, I realized that I had included your likenesses in the video and then posted it on YouTube. And I don't know if you might object to having your likeness posted on YouTube in the video. Um, so I'll have to figure out what to do about that. I think I'll just make it private only to members of our class. I think I'll make it private so that the general public can't log on it and see it. But anyway, let's go ahead with your questions.
Okay, well, I think I have a ton. So, one is just a clarification about like APA style with our reference. Um, so when we're doing all the authors, right? I was under the impression that, let's say I have three authors, that I need to put them in alphabetical order. And I think you had told me, like feedback wise, no, don't do that. Do alphabetical order, like going down all the different sources. Correct?
That's correct. Don't move them around within the lane, and I'll explain again why. Um, the world of academia, right, publications is very competitive, and the first author is the one who does most of the work. Maybe it was his idea or her project, and they put it all together, and then they had to invite some other people to come and help. And so the people that they come and help get listed as the second or the third or the fourth or the 19th or 20th authors. And so by the time you get down to 19 or 20, it might just be the person that they had go for donuts and coffee every morning and bring them back. But in order to get them to pay for the donuts and the coffee every morning, they had to agree to put their name on the paper. So there's a lot of negotiation about how people get invested in a paper or in a research project, and then how they get listed. So it's very important to the authors that orders stay the same. And it doesn't matter if you've got one, or you'd have to have two for it to even matter, but 2 or 22 doesn't matter. Um, yeah, so that's exactly right. Put them in alphabetical order by the first author's last name. Now, what do we do when we cite an organization as an author, such as the CDC?
So that's actually, I was gonna have to go back and look at all that. I think we just used the CDC, right?
You can use CDC in your in-text citation, but you have to spell out Centers for Disease Control and Management or whatever it is down at the bottom. But you put it in the C's, right? It goes, because that's the author, then it gets alphabetized by the first author, the first word of that organization's name. So it'll go CE, it'll go in the reference list according to where would the American, what's a good American organization? The American Society for Smoking Cessation. Where would that go?
At the top, right?
Yeah, and AMs. So I always say according to the first author's last name, but sometimes the first author is something other than a person. And in fact, sometimes you'll find an article that has no author at all. And in that case, you move, and this is all in APA style, right? Everything is in there. You can find it, but it says APA tells us to move the title to the front and alphabetize according to the first word of the title of the paper. So if you have your title, then your year of publication, and then the title of the article, or whatnot. I'm sorry, the name of the container. So there's some variations, and you will find all that if you spend some time over in the Purdue OWL with the right guidance, right? If it's a journal article, you got to find journal article. If it's a book, you got to find the guidance for the book, whatever it is. Okay. You got to be careful now, because you can ask me how to write an article and I'll tell you how to write a book, right? Or what time is it, and I'll tell you how to build a clock. So don't let me talk you into understanding and then right back out of understanding again.
No, I understood that.
Okay.
I just wanted clarification on that so I don't do that anymore. So thank you. You clarified that for me. The rest of my questions really have to do about this persuasive paper. Honestly, I'm terrible at procrastinating. So I know I told you I've looked at some sources, but I have not even started. I'm kind of like intimidated. Like I don't even know where to start. So I know that we have like an introduction paragraph, we make a thesis, then we have three little body paragraphs, and then our conclusion. Now,
Let's not call them 3 little body paragraphs. Let's call them 3 comprehensive body paragraphs.
okay. Now, with that being said, I looked at that PowerPoint you had posted, which was helpful, but I think it said, I just remember in high school, which was so long ago, our thesis, when we made our thesis, and this was so long ago, so I could be wrong, but like the 3 points, the 3 paragraphs that I'll make were in that thesis, right? I can do that or no?
Yes, I label it a bit differently, right? I call that, now let me put my blank whiteboard up here, and then, so I call that, you have the thesis statement and the uh, development statement. So the thesis statement has to give 2 pieces of information, right? It has to give us the topic of the paper and the position the paper is going to take. So if you wanted to write in favor of smoking, you would say something along the lines of smoking is good for some people. So now we know that the topic is smoking and that the position is that there's some benefit. And then you have the development statement, which includes those 3 main points, right? So smoking is good for some people, period. It relaxes nerves, comma, helps treat anxiety, comma, and most of the puts money into our economy. I'm kind of couldn't really think of a good one there, but so then that together makes your thesis statement and your development statement, and it has all the information that the reader needs to know. And I do it this way. I know I'm different from the high schools, but I want to see that I want you to think about those 2 statements separately. A lot of times,
So, sorry,
go ahead.
just to clarify, because I overthink things a ton. So essentially, I'll go with what you said. My kid's busting in here, sorry. Riley.
My cat just jumped up in my lap too.
No, my kid, sorry, my youngest one.
Oh,
And
okay. Well, he can come hang
she's,
out. She can come hang out.
Riley, what are you doing? Can you go downstairs? Mommy's doing homework. See, I'm in class. Can you go downstairs? Thank you. So, definitely just threw me. Okay,
Well,
so personal info. I actually smoke tobacco. So when I started looking up, should Americans stop smoking? I'm like, oh, I need to stop smoking. I didn't know there were so many health issues that could come from it. But um, so in the thesis, you kind of want us to put just like what it's about. So like I'll go with your example of keep smoke, like why Americans should smoke. Kind of like, sorry, my brain's fried today. Just kind of saying Americans should smoke because it does have benefits. And then the next statement, which would be the development statement, lists those reasons essentially.
yes, then those 3 reasons will be the topics for your 3 supporting paragraphs.
Okay. Now
You'll
another
do one.
question.
Okay.
I had looked at an example in our textbook of a persuasive paper. I think it was the first one it shows. It was a girl writing about technical schools. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you know what I'm referring to. Um, her paper was like 6 pages, and it had a lot of like a lot of it from I think like the introduction and first paragraph that I read. A lot of it looked like it was from other sources, and she didn't really say a lot. Is that what we're supposed to do, or can I say what I want and back it up just a little bit?
So
Does that make sense?
here's what it does, and here's what I'm going to hammer on, right? Persuasive paper, if you and I discuss any issue and we have different positions, it's very unlikely that I can change your mind or change the way that you behave just by telling you what I think. And so that is the challenge of the persuasive paper. The persuasive writer is the purpose of a persuasive paper is to change the way people think and behave, right? So if I'm as a writer, I'm just telling you, I think this would be good for you, and I think this would be good for you, and I think you should do that, and I think you should do the other thing. What's the first reaction that you're likely to have?
Kind of like when my mom always told me, like, you need to do this, this, and I'm like, you don't need to tell me what to do.
Exactly, exactly. And so we throw up a resistance to the ideas. And of course, as a writer, I can't influence you as a reader if you are resistant to me at the first part of the paper. If you're immediately get resistant, because the chances are you'll throw the paper away and listen to it about as much as you did to your mom. And so what we have to do, and this is important, right? Persuasive writing lives in third person. Persuasive writing lives in third person. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the existing research of other scientists to help you understand why I feel the way that I do. And while I can't change your mind by telling you what I think is good, I can tell you what the other researchers have proven to be true, and it's harder for you to disagree with them, right? It's sort of like bringing in your best friend's parents and letting them tell you the same thing your parents said, but it sounds different coming from that third person than it did coming from your parents. So first person, well, let's see if we can, maybe we can put this down here for everybody to view. First person is I, me, my, mine, us, we, our, might be all of them. And then second person is you, singular, you, plural, and your. So that one's, and then third person is someone else. He, she, it, they, them, those, always somebody else. So when in first person, students tend to write, I have this experience and I want you to know how it's affected me, and I want you to know that you can be better by avoiding this, or I think that you'll be better served by doing the same thing I did. And you'll talk about I did this, and my friends did this, and we went here, and you'll have that first person, those pronouns all through your paper. And I'll highlight it and put it in yellow, and I'll say never use first person. Third person is the only way you can address a persuasive paper. There are times when you can write in first person, right? There are other essays where it's appropriate. It's what we want is to hear your experience. It's just not in persuasion. And then second person, you singular and you plural. If I'm talking to you, Kiri, and I say you do this, or I can talk to the group at large, all 4 or 5 of us, and say you should all pay attention to first, second, third person. So I can talk to one person and say you, and I can talk to a group as if it's one person and use you, and then your is the other one. You're this and you're that. Second person use gets in there a lot. You will feel better if you use Juice Plus. You will score more points if you learn to dribble a different way. You will do this, you will do that. I did this and I learned it, and you will learn it if you do this. And so, and none of that can be source cited. So the idea that you saw a lot of source citations suggest to me that the paper was written in third person. Now, not necessarily he, specifically that word he, but instead of saying he said this, we say Smith in 2023 said that smoking is harmful to your lungs. Instead of saying they, we say Smith 2023, Jones 2021, and Andrews 2019 all found the same thing: smoking is harmful. And so we don't necessarily use those third person pronouns. If it were it, we would say something like the American Psychological Association in 2023 found that smoking is harmful. So in third person, we are using the research of other people to make our points more valid. And remember, you know, those are going to come. This time you can use a regular website. You can say, according to, you know, www.reynoldstobaccocompany.com, smoking is good. That's fine. Later on, we will use more relevant or more credible sources. So have I answered your question? It's right that you would want, I think in this paper, I've asked you to use 3 different resources, and I think I've asked you to include at least one in-text citation per body paragraph. Now, there will be places where others could be used. I feel sure there usually is, and I'll highlight it and I'll say, well, a citation would have made this more credible. So you can use as many as you need to, but you must use at least one per paragraph.
Okay, so just make sure I use 3 different resources. So like I could use the CDC and then whatever else and then whatever else, and then have at least one citation from each source. Like if I make one's about the CDC, like one paragraph, I cite something from the CDC in that paragraph.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when doing that, sorry, and I'm again might be overthinking this, but when I'm doing that, so like, okay, so I could say, like, according to the CDC, 500,000 Americans die each year from smoking tobacco. Can I say that, or do I need to literally, according to, and then in citation, CDC, or can I put that at the end of my sentence?
So there are several ways you can do that, and it helps to vary them. It just helps the reading be a little more interesting when they're varied. But we must, of course, use a citation when it's a direct quote. And when we use a direct quote, the APA style requires us to use the page number. So you would say, according to the CDC 2023, and then you would say whatever they said, 80 million Americans want to quit smoking every year, and then in parentheses, P.171. If it's a direct quote, right? You got quotation marks around it. If it's not, you also have to source cite if you paraphrase or restate in your own words, right? So if what you want to say is based on somebody else's, then you still have to say, according to the Center for Disease Control 2023, 80 million Americans smoke and would like to quit, but you just don't have to put the page number.
Okay, so I would say, like, according to the CDC, and that doesn't have to be like in the parentheses, right?
Right. And I'll show you. Let's go over here.
Like if I paraphrase it in my own words, I can say, according to the CDC, 500,000 Americans a year die due to smoking tobacco. And then at the end of that, I would just put in parentheses like CDC in the year, or, well, I know it's different with each source too. So
So when we're talking about, let me go back and share, we're talking about in-text citations. If you look at the APA lineup, there's only 2 blocks. There's APA general format or reference list in-text citations general format, and in-text citations authors. So there's only 2 different places where you have guidance for in-text citations. And you should be able to see them. I know this is small and you won't be able to read it. Let's see. I'll probably block out some, but I'll try to make it a little bit bigger so you can see. So right here you have reference list, basic rules, and reference list author or authors. And so, I'm sorry, I said reference list, I meant in-text citations.
Oh, yep, I think I found it. Sorry. I probably should have looked at that before I ever asked you, but I think I would do like organization as an author. And it says if the author is an organization or a government agency, mention the organization in the signal phrase or the parental
Pa
citation.
parenthetical.
Citation the first time you cite the source, just as you would an individual person. And it says, according to the American Psychology, oh my goodness, I cannot read, Association. And we just quote the, like parenthesize the year.
Yeah, and you should see that. Is this up on your screen now? Right there.
Yes.
So here is what they say by the signal phrase, right? If we said research by Wegner and Petty, that's our signal phrase telling our reader that whatever follows here is coming from that source. Then we have to put the year in parentheses here after the, or in the signal phrase. And then we go ahead and say whatever we want to say. The parenthetical citation is the one that you're thinking about that comes at the end where you say everything you want to say, and then at the end you put parentheses CDC, comma 2023, parentheses, and period. So this is the parenthetical citation, and this is the signal phrase citation. And you can do both, and you really should. Here
I'm
you can
so
see that
sorry.
that's
You
okay,
cut
they
out
bent.
for me, so I did not hear you.
Oh, okay. So I was trying to say that you can do either the signal phrase citation or the parenthetical citation. And you can see here that they kind of broke the rule about using this. This isn't specifically used for organizations. If you follow that rule, if you have an organization, always do it in the signal phrase format. You probably won't go wrong. Are you still hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. We had this problem the other day. I got a little button on my microphone and I pressed it accidentally under my elbow and everything went off. So those are the two, and this is where you would find it if you had a question about it. So does that help?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And then I don't really have much more questions. Now, does our paper need to be in between 1,000 words, at 1,000 words, or don't go over 1,000?
Well, let's say between 900 and 1100.
Okay, and then, sorry, I think I'm about to wrap it up, but when we're doing this paper, I guess I've struggled. I just realized talking to one of my friends, she's actually did English, like college English forever ago. She's actually about to graduate with her master's next semester. And
Oh,
I
well,
asked
good for
her, I
her.
said, yeah, I asked her, I said, is everything from now on going to be like in APA format? She was like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I was just going to write the paper like introduction, 3 body paragraphs, conclusion. And she's like, you're probably going to have to do like a title page and all of that, like the title page, main body page, and reference page. I need to do that.
Yes. We are not
Okay.
going to do an abstract, but we will do a title page. The main body is the paragraphs, the 5 paragraphs, and then the reference page at the end,
Okay.
which we've been practicing already, right? We've been practicing reference pages.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Title page is a little bit different, but it's very specific. You can see the reference, the example there. You might have a little bit of trouble formatting, but it's centered. You know, just highlight everything, click centered. It'll put everything where you want it. You have to capitalize all the words, all the letters in the title and subtitle. Then you put your name, the college name, the course name, and The date is the due date of the paper,
Okay.
not necessarily
And
the night that you wrote it.
due date. I noticed on the example in the textbook that the girl's last name was with the page numbers up at the top. Do we need to do that as well?
There's short answer is no.
Okay.
And there's two editions. There's APA 6th edition, which has been around for about 15 years, but 2 or 3 years ago we transferred over to APA 7. So the APA 7 takes away the requirement for what we call the running head, which is a title in the upper left corner. It says it says running head colon and then the title of the paper. That's no longer a requirement, and the name with the page number is no longer a requirement for student papers.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's all the questions I have to clarify what I need to be doing. So thank you.
Yay! Jill, Autumn, Anthony, you can type if you have a question. I'll go back over here and look and see if there's anything in the. You've been very quiet since you said hello. Autumn, what you got?
So on one of the pages that I looked up, it has, so it, as far as I see, it has two people that are we following on it, but it literally says, like, on just a phrase that I thought about using, has just, like, it tells you which one is saying it. Do I need to write both of them in the reference page or just the one?
Let me think about that. Now, we spoke the other night about secondary references, right? Secondary resources. A secondary resource is when you're reading a paper that's been written by Smith, and Smith says, according to Jones in 2021, something happened. You don't cite Jones. You only cite the paper that you read.
Okay, I'm a little
Why?
confused on that.
I didn't look. It didn't seem like that was sinking in. So let me try to explain it again, right? I'm not sure if this is your example or not, but if you go into put it in the search engine in the Purdue OWL and put in secondary resources, you'll get a list of stuff you can read to make sure. But the idea is, like, if one writer, if you write a paper and you source cite Kiri and Jill and Anthony as sources, right? Having read their paper and you put their information in your paper, then the next person doesn't source cite Kiri and Jill and Anthony. They only source cite Autumn. And Autumn becomes responsible for whatever Kiri and Jill and Anthony said because Autumn put it in her paper as the gospel truth. Right?
Okay, so, like, hey, I'm gonna say, for example, so, like, on this one, it's a education one, but Gwen, he's fine. Gwen, he's fine. Just moving. Sorry. Like, one of them says millions, and then it has what they believe, and then the other one says philosopher. Don't even know how to say that, but and then it has his kind of view. So it's two different.
So who wrote the article that you're reading?
Well, I can't tell how to find that.
Oh, is it a website?
It is. It's the Child and Adolescent Health, Mental Health, September 27th, 2021.
And it doesn't have either up at the top, under where it says the date usually is where the author will say written by or by so and so and so and so.
I do not see that.
Don't see that. Then maybe you can scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Can
Otherwise, here's
I share
my
my
thought.
screen for just a second?
Sure. You know how to share?
Yes.
Did I give you screen sharing?
Well, I don't think I can do it on this one.
Let's see if I can thought maybe I can allow students to share, but I might have had to make that somewhere else. So the next thing that I'm thinking is that if the author is the organization, whatever that organization was, then they have written it and they have source cited 2 other people within their organization with opposing views.
I learned how to share in tutoring.
I may not have given you sharing. I was trying to think. I wish. We don't need breakout groups. I don't see quickly and easily exactly how I can allow you to share. Maybe I should have done that otherwise. All right, let's see if I can open it. And now let's see if I can share it. Okay. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing now?
Yes.
Okay. So the Mailman School, Columbia University, the Mailman School of Public Health. That's the name of the website. So that's going to be our container name. And this is the name of the magazine? That's the name of the magazine, isn't it?
I believe so.
Okay. So we got a lot of faculty members, but they didn't give us an author. They're saying a recent investigation. So this is a secondary resource, right? They're saying an investigation by the Wall Street Journal gave up some information, but if I use this, when you use this, you're not going to cite the Wall Street Journal too. You're just going to source cite this particular. Okay, so this looks like that they've conducted some interviews with some faculty members, and they're sort of sharing with us the faculty members' ideas. But yeah, this is going to be the Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health. Is that going to be our author? So it's going to be the organization, and this is common. You will never have this problem with a peer-reviewed paper. Every peer-reviewed paper has all the information that you need to cite it correctly. But sometimes here with these just regular websites, this happens to us. So we're going to have our.
So should I just not use that one?
No, go ahead and use it. This is the name of the this is the name of the article. Child and Adolescent Health, Mental Health. I'd have to think about it, decide if this is our author. That's the name of the magazine or the journal. And then our author is going to be this bunch right here, the Mailman School of Public Health, Columbia University. I guess that's Columbia University. Might be Columbia College or somewhere else, another Columbia. No, it's fine. Go ahead and use it for this time because we're just trying to get all this done kind of quick. A week is not a whole lot of time to come up with a draft of a persuasive paper with all these parts to it. Yeah, right there
I've
it is,
already been
Columbia.
doing some research with it.
There it is. It says right there, the Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health and Columbia Psychiatry. So it is Columbia University. But you just list it the way it's given right here, Columbia Mailman School of Public Health.
Okay. And I put that as the author.
That's the author. Then you have your, and when you do your dates, always put the year first. So it'll be 2021, September 27th, period. And then you'll put your title of your paper, and it'll be in plain text. And you put a period at the end of it, and then you'll have the name of your container, and it'll be in italics.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
I
when
was
you, if you
using
had,
that on one of my things.
yeah,
So whenever,
but you,
so if I use a citation, which I'm probably just gonna reword into my words, but if I use a citation, do I just put Columbia instead of the person's name?
yes. Yeah. APA tells us that we don't want the in-text citations to be so lengthy that they are distracting. And so it tells us on APA that we can use just the first word or the first couple of words if we need to. All we got to do is link our reader from the information in the text to the listing on the reference page. So, and here's a good point. Whatever goes in the in text, whatever you put in text, has to be the first words of your reference page entry. So if you put Columbia, right, in text parentheses, Columbia, comma, 2017, 2019, whenever that was, 2021, and then that says, that lets everybody know that that has to be the first word on your reference page entry. Columbia, whatever comes after that, but the word in the in text has to match the first word on the reference page.
So one more question that might be weird. Since this is
Okay.
a school one, do I still put the initials after Columbia?
No, you'll spell it out. When it's an
So I'll spell that one
organization,
out.
you always spell it out. You only use initials for, and I told you guys the idea behind gender non-disclosure, right? That's why APA has us use initials so that readers don't know the
Yes, I
gender
do
of the
remember that.
writer until after we've read the paper. But when it's an organization, you write out the whole thing.
Okay.
And you will, if you get lost and need some help, go back to authors and look up an organization as an author, and all that stuff will be on the OWL.
Okay.
The online writing lab.
Thank you.
All right, ask me another question.
I actually
Jill?
do have one more. Sorry.
All right, we'll jump to Kiri and then we'll go to Jill next.
In that PowerPoint that you had recently just posted, and it could have been in the textbook, but I think it was the PowerPoint. One of them said that in our paper we need to put the opposing argument in there. Do we have to do that?
So here's what that comes down to, right? You can make that something like, not everyone agrees. However, Smith 2022 said smoking can be beneficial for some people. So it's just, all you got to do is acknowledge that not everyone agrees, right? Just a little wiggle room. So you're just acknowledging that you have not done the definitive work on smoking cessation ever to follow, right? If we don't at least say not everybody agrees, or there's still some discussion, or some professors dissent, or something like that, if we leave that out, then we sort of take a, what do you call that, like an imperial view, where we are the know all, say all, end all, and that invites a lot of scrutiny, so we want to avoid that.
So I
So
don't have
you
to
can do that one time. No, you
okay.
don't have to spend a paragraph on the counter argument at all. All you got to do is acknowledge the counter argument. Not everybody agrees. There is some dissent. It's an unpopular position. Anything along those lines that lets the reader know that this paper isn't perfect. There's still room for dissent or argument.
Okay, so essentially like one of my reasons on why I think what I think I should counter argue just one of them. Like I don't have to counter argue every single thing I
Correct.
put.
Hey, you quit. Quit. Darn dogs. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. You don't have to, you can say, although not everyone believes or everyone agrees, and then that covers you for the rest of the paper.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Jill, you had a hand up?
Oh, that's what question I'm gonna ask. Carrie already asked, so I understand now.
Okay, so that's just what we call acknowledging the counter argument. And someday when you're working on your PhD, you may have to be more in depth and explain why people disagree. But for where we are right now, all we got to do is learn the premise, acknowledge the counter argument, and then move on. Don't want to spend any of your time writing developing the counter argument. Just tell me what is important to you.
Okay. All right. You got it.
All right. Good luck. So I will not talk to you guys again before your papers are due unless you email me. So if you get lost or you need some help, just send me an email and I'll get you an answer. Remember, Friday night I take Miss Moore out for dinner, so I'm not online for emails Friday night, but Saturday morning I'll get back on, so I'll get you an answer pretty quickly. And if it helps, I always stay here until the last person has logged out. So if you've got something you want to talk about more privately, just hang around with me and be the last one. Be the last one, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Otherwise, guys, you've been great. Thank you for sticking with me a little longer than I meant to, but I look forward to reading your papers.